Hello team, welcome all. Today I'm gonna give you a demo on Android penetration testing. So I would like to summarize what I'm going to do today. So I will be starting with the introduction to Android, and after that I will be showing the uh, how the Android application is built in the developer's point of view. After that we will do the source code analysis, and then we will move for static and dynamic analysis of an application. So for this demo I have created uh, I am using one Diva, one vulnerable application to perform static and dynamic analysis and all the penetration testing things. And also, the thing what I observed in Diva was the major critical vulnerabilities were not found inside the application, which was like the reverse TCP connection, which will be connected to the attacker, as well as there is also one vulnerability called WebView vulnerability. These were missing from the Diva, so I manually built one application. So it will be useful for understand the how an application is built, as well as we can exploit the vulnerabilities which I intendedly uh, kept inside that application. Okay, so let's begin the presentation. Introduction to Android. We all know Android is a popular smartphone operating systems, even though there are different operating systems like iOS, BlackBerry, but Android is the most popular one which is used by many people, and Android is also open source, and we can download the Android 7, Android 8, Android 9, any ROM or the kernel of the Android from the open source Android platform, and then we can modify the applications. If we see an Android device, the applications will be decided by the vendor. For example, if we take the Samsung, so he will be installing all the required applications for that. So if you want to manually add some of the applications or remove something, we can use the open source and we can build our own application. And then it is preferred by many developers and consumers because Android is used by many different mobile devices. So most probably the developers will be also choosing this, and Android is built on Linux kernel. We know like the Android architecture. If we see the Android architecture, we'll be getting some idea. Like the Android application is built on the Linux kernel, and most of the applications are built in Android compared to any other smartphones operating systems. Architecture of Android. I thought this would be important because if we understand this thing, then it will be easy for us to do the penetration testing. That's the reason I kept here. And we will come up with the Linux kernel, which is the most important layer of the Android architecture. It provides the system functionality of the device, and it provides the process management, device management, and it contains the different drivers. For example, if you take an Android device, you will be having different components like mic, Wi-Fi, display. These all are the components which are attached to the Android motherboard. So in order to uh, provide the functionality and the working of the components, you will need a drivers, right? So all the drivers which are available, which are required for the Android application, will be available here. So here, if any one of the driver fails, then even though we have the applications which requires these drivers, it will be difficult to operate. So this is the most important layer of the Android architecture. And the next thing is libraries. So the libraries provides uh, like the in the Android architecture, there are some predefined libraries which are required by some of the applications. Let's take WebKit. WebKit is used by the WebKit library used by the web browser like Google Chrome, whatever the browser it is available in our Android device. So in order to perform the browser activities, it requires WebKit. And we can see OpenGL. This is also one type of library. This library is used by many games. In the Android device, we'll be playing games and animations, graphics we'll be doing, right? So further thing, this thing is required. And the similar way, SSL is used for encryption, and DIPSI, which is used by the Linux kernel. These are the things it will be providing. And Apollo layer is application framework. Application framework is responsible for providing the services to the applications, and in the form of Java class, like this framework, which are also predefined already. So here we can see in the application framework there is one called notification manager. So notification manager, this service is used by some of the applications. Let's take WhatsApp. So even though if your WhatsApp application is down, if you get some kind of messages, or you will be getting a notification pop-up, right? So the pop-up service which is running on the background will be managed by this notification manager. And the topmost layer of the Android architecture is application. So here all the applications which are predefined, and we manually we can install the applications. like home, contacts. If you some of the social media applications, YouTube, whatever the applications which are available, these will be install which will be comes under application layer. So here the security also it comes from top to bottom. Like if the bottommost layer, if the Linux kernel is compromised or it has some error, so there the security flaws will be more. In the applications, it is limited to application. Like each application will be having one package name, one process ID. So the security will be from top to bottom. And the next thing is Android runtime. So it provides the core libraries and Dalvik VM. We know that the Android will be running on DVM. So this DVM allows the developers to execute their code and convert into the Dalvik code. Hence, it is converted into the DEX codes. So which we'll be seeing in the during the static analysis of the application. Next, security architecture of Android. Security architecture comes with two types. One is the application security model, and the next one is Linux-based security model. Application security model means the security is limited to each and every application. So each application will be having different kind of permission control. So for example, if you take one applications, it requires camera, it requires Bluetooth, it requires some of the permissions. If you consider, if you see with another applications, it may not require the camera, but it may require storage, like these kind of things. So the app security model depends on the application developer. So this is mainly important because to give the permission of the application, what are the services it will be using. So like for example, a manifest file. So the manifest file will be containing the permission control which are declared by the developer. And the next thing is Linux based security model. So here the privileges. If you take an Android device, the device may be rooted or non-rooted. In most cases, devices will be comes with non-rooted only with the manufacturer. So here whenever an application is installed on the Android device, so each application will be having each process. Whenever an application is launched, so it will be having one unique package, one unique process ID, and it will be different with all the applications which are running in the same device. Next, Android application development cycle. So here uh, at first the application will be written on Java source code, which may be Java or Kotlin, whatever preferred by the developer. Then the Java is converted into the Java bytecode using the any Android Studio or any or any device or any software. It will be converted into that, and after that, whenever the application is converted into bytecode, class code, that is, then there is an ProGuard is there. ProGuard means like if you want to do code obfuscation, or if you want to remove unwanted code, or if you want to minimize the application size, then the ProGuard will plays major role in order to minimize the code. And the ProGuard is by default it will be not enabled. The developers will be enabled in order to do the code obfuscation, these kind of things. It is not mandatory that you have to every time do the ProGuard things. And after that, if you are using, then okay. If you are not using also, then the final thing, it will be converted into DEX code. As I said, the DEX code is used by the DVM, like the Android device, in order to execute an application. So the Android device will be having DVM, Dalvik virtual machine. So to execute this file in the Dalvik virtual machine, you need one format that is called DEX format. So the DEX format is understandable by the DVM. So we are converting into that thing, and then the final application is built, which is called as machine code or native, which is the APK application is built. Next, exploring Android project. If you take one application, you will be having uh, two different kind of names. One is application name, one is package name. Application name, which means it can be changed manually. Whenever the developer want to change, he can change the thing. For example, take Instagram, and you can change it to Instagram, and whatever the developer wants to change, he can change. But the package name should be unique. So here we can see com.instagram.android. This thing cannot be changed because whenever an application is built and released in the Play Store, so the package name should be fixed. No two applications will be having the same package name because it's already unique. So it should not clash with another application. For example, see here, this thing is called application name, and here we can see com.instagram.android. This thing is called the package name. So this thing is fixed, and this thing even he can change. Even if you want to add one more name, whatever the editing he want to change the name, he can change. This thing can be changed by the developer, and this thing is fixed. If you gave this com.to and Instagram.android, then no other application will be having the same package name. The next, Android project structure. So inside an Android application, how the applications will be there, and in what format, and what are the different folders available, what are the functionality, that thing will comes under here. So now we can see, let's start with Android manifest file. So in the top you can see the manifest file is the most important file. The manifest file contains the app component details, declaration of activity, what are the activities available inside the thing, and services, broadcast receivers, content providers. If an application is using any kind of this thing, any activities or any services, broadcast receivers or content providers, so that thing should be mentioned here. It is mandatory. Like if you miss any one of the, for example, if your application is using 4 activities, if you forget to mention one activity inside the manifest file, so the application will crash. Whenever you launch an application, the application will be crashing. You can see in some of the cases, application is not responding, uh, like that you will be getting some crash messages, right? This is due to this thing. If you are using any services or anything, if you are using, then you have to mandatory, you have to mention inside the manifest file. If you don't mention, then it may lead to crash. And also the manifest file will contain necessary permissions. Permission in the case, in the sense, camera, Wi-Fi, whatever internet, whatever the application is using, that thing will be mentioned here. And we can say like whenever we see a manifest file from top to bottom, it gives a summary of the application, like what are the permissions it is using, and what else it is using, how many activities are there, are they using any content providers, these kind of things we can see from there. And next, you can see here Java folder. So it contains, like it is called the package name actually inside the thing, and it contains all the Java files and Kotlin files, which Java or Kotlin file which are used by the application. Like all the source code of the application will be written here. All the activities and their respective source code, from which activities the application is navigating, how it is navigating, if you press a button, how it will be moving from one place to another activity. All these things will be declared here. And then resource folder. So the resource folder generally contains all the UI resources. UI resources in the sense, the user interface, whatever it is visible to the user, that thing will be uh, available here. So inside this thing there are uh, different kind of resources. We can see under the resources folder we have drawable folder. So the under the drawable folder, it contains the application images. For example, in any application, if there are images already built, see, for example, if you take WhatsApp application, you can see the WhatsApp icons and WhatsApp logos, and all the, like, what are the images available in the application, that thing will be stored here. It contains only the image assets. And next we can see layout folder. So it stores all the layouts used in an application. For example, if you are using 3 activities, so in the in the minimum case there will be 3 layouts. The layouts means whatever displaying to the user. If you take a login, if you press a login, you can see the login screen, right? So the screen, the UI designed by the layout, that layouts will be available here. And the next thing is mipmap folder. So the application launcher icon. See, see from here you can see, the messaging has its own icon, the gallery has its own icon. All these icons are stored in the bitmap folder. Okay, the next thing is values folder. So under this value folder, you will, all the application styles, what are the themes used by the application, what are the color details, localized strings, like what are the strings it is using, all these things will be stored inside the values folder. And also in the case of Android penetration testing, the values folder, inside the values folder, we can find many more hard coded information inside the string section. And the next thing is called Gradle scripts. So under the Gradle scripts, it will be containing the build configuration, what are the plugins used by the application, and what are the external libraries used. So these kind of things it will be available here. This is about the Android project structure. Yeah, next it will comes with the Android application. components. So inside the Android application components, you can see the top three: activities, views, user interface, and these things are mandatory in all the applications. And services, content provider, broadcast receiver, it's an optional. Like if your application want to use the thing, you can use, or else not at all required. Okay, let's start with activity. So activity represents a single screen with an user interface. So if you take an activity, uh, activity let's take activity.java. It will be attached with the layout of activity.xml, because the activity provides an user interface. So the code is written on the backend Java in the form of Java or Kotlin, and the view is defined on the XML file. So in order to perform an activity, you require two things, which is called views and user interface. So view, the view is nothing but if you open an application, what it is showing for you, like what you can see from the display screen, that is called view. And intents, so intent can be defined as an intention to do something, like from navigating from one activity to another activity. If you take an application, you will be pressing login, so from the login page you will be redirected to dashboard page. So in order to navigate from one activity to another activity, you will be using intents. And also you will be using intents in some cases to pass the data also. This is the thing. And services, if your application is using, if your application requires any services, like in the background service or any other services, so this thing is required. These things are not mandatory in all the applications. Some of the applications may require content providers. If you are using any external content provider or third party content provider, then in that case you will be adding this thing. And broadcast receiver, this is also one of the component of the Android application. So these three are not mandatory, the above three are mandatory. uh, like that's all with the basics of uh, that's all with the introduction to the Android. So now let's do how an application is, how an application will be in the developer's point of view. So that I'm showing you this thing because it will be easy for you to do the penetration testing, because if you know how an application is built, in what places you have to search for something, so it will be easy for you. So that's why I'm coming with the thing. See, this is a Android application. This is one vulnerable application I have built. So this is a small application. I thought like if we go through the application, how an application is built, in what section, what we can find. So it will be easy. Okay, let's start with manifest file. Okay, see, this is the manifest file of this application. Inside this thing, uh, wait, the top begins with the package name, the Android package. So here for this application we are giving this package as com.example.walnap. So this thing should be unique. And here for this the next thing comes is permission. So for this application we are using only one permission, so we have declared here. If there are any, if it requires many permissions, or in that case the permissions will be declared here. And the next thing is comes is applications. So if you press here, and these things we will see in we will get in depth in the static analysis section. I'm just showing you like how an application, how it will be. So here we can see the activities plays an important role inside this application section. So here from this we can see how many activities are there: one activity, two activity, three activity, four activity. It means that this application has four activities. Wait, let me run the application. Yeah, okay. This application has four activities. And also out of the four activities, when an application is launched, like from the device, if you press the launch icon, so which is the activity it is started first. So here we can see activity Android name splash screen. So here we have given the intent filter, which means that here you can see action Android name is equal to intent main function category launcher. So whenever this application is launched, so this is the first activity which is started. Okay, even though it has even it has another three activities, but that thing depends on the like that thing depends on the user, or the whoever is using. So let's see, now we have launched the application. You can see, yeah, now when an application is launched, you can see the splash screen. Okay, After the splash screen, you are getting into the actual application. So here also we have declared the same thing. When our application is launched, the splash screen is opening. So from here we can see, so all the source code will be written inside this Java folder, I said you right. So here let us get into the splash screen. Okay, whenever an application is launched, this is the first page, it is loading. So for the splash screen, this is for the back end. For the front end, as I said, you will be having these folders, right? Layout folder, see, activity underscore splash underscore XML. So this is the user interface. This is a view of the user. In the back end, it will be having this code. In the front end, this is the thing. In the right side, you can see this is a view. Like whenever a splash screen is loaded, this is how it looks. So inside this also you can see. So um, this layout is using one image. Okay, here cyber security, one image I have used, and also one text view. So you can analyze simply. In the penetration testing case, no we no need to focus much on layout files, because inside this nothing is will be there. It usually contains the views which is required. So for example, I am showing you. So here we are using an image view. As I already said, the images will be containing in the drawable folder. So inside this thing you can see id splash underscore image, which means sorry, this is the id. So the source, here we can see, and inside the drawable logo. So here this logo is the same image. So under the drawable folder, it contains all the view related thing. Okay, so and next we are using one text view. Okay, and after that we are using one more text view. And here okay, let's get back into our activity section. So here let us start the so yeah, these all are the variables we have declared for this activity, so no need to worry. So this is a main class inside an Android application. So public protected void on create. So this is like what you call, this is a main class inside and Java, inside and Java activity. After that, super dot on create, this is a main function. This is a main thread which will be starting. So here, and this thing no need to worry. This thing we have used because uh, this thing is not mandatory. This thing is just because here we can see the screen. uh, Above the thing you can see now 926 Wi-Fi thing, this thing you can see. But if you use like if you use this code, right, flag full screen, so it will be coming in a full screen format. So you can't see that thing. You can't see this battery and the time, this kind of things you can't see. Like whenever this this get window code is set. So the splash for usually for all the splash screens, the developers will be using the whole full screen. So here you can see it is using full screen. The top thing is gone, right? So that is due to this thing. And after that, for this application, you need a layout, right? The user interface you required. So here the layout is layout dot activity underscore splash screen, which is this one. So whenever this Java code is executed, it should load this activity, this screen. So that's why we are using here. And after that, we are using some kind of animations for these applications. Usually for the splash screens, splash screen means when an application is launched, you'll be getting some kind of animated thing, right? So for this thing, we are using this animation. So from our animation, you can see from top it is coming something down, from bottom it is coming something up. So for that thing we have used this thing. And here the animation folder I have created. Inside this we have created the animation in the XML format, how it has to move. See, from delta, from 0%, 100%, from top to bottom, bottom to top one. These kind of things will be mentioned here. So that thing is also not required. Yeah, then after that, okay, let it be. We saw in the XML file we are used one image and one logo name and one developer name. Like we saw the three things, right? Two text views and one image view. That's why I mentioned here in order to show. And after that, you can see this is the main thing. You have to look for the intents. Splash screen dot this to main activity dot class, which means that whenever the splash screen has been completed, then it has to move from one activity to another activity. That's all we saw, right? In the intents we are using to navigate from one activity to next activity. So now we are moving from splash screen dot this activity to main class dot activity, which means whenever the splash screen is completed, it should go to the main activity. Okay, this is the main activity. See, this is the main activity. Whenever the splash screen is completed, it is coming inside this main activity. Okay, and let's see the main activity XML file also. See, this is a view. This is a view of the main activity XML. Like whenever the splash screen completed, it loads into this page, and this thing you can see. And here, yeah, I think here we are not saying image because I didn't mention inside the Java file. Okay, yeah, this is also same thing. This also has one super class, and here also you can see this. This Java code requires this layout to see. So here we have loaded the layout, and inside this also we can see one image view, two text views, one button is there. Yeah, here yeah, we didn't declare any image here. If you declare, then it will show. So here we are declaring only button thing. You can see, like whenever this button is pressed, what it has to do. So here we can see button, you are declaring the variable declaration. After that, button dot set on click listener. So the set on click listener is used in Android applications to perform some kind of events. So whenever the user presses on that button, what it has to do. So whenever presses this get started, let's see, we have pressed this get started. What it has to do, it is moving from again one activity to another activity, one screen to another screen. That thing is declared inside this thing. So here whenever someone presses this thing, you will be moving from main activity dot this to main activity to dot class. So here we are again using intent, because if you press the um, if you press the button, it has to now it has been moving from main activity to main activity 2. That's all right. This is another screen. So again what you can do is, you can see the sorry, you can see the main activity too. Okay, and we'll open the main activity to XML also. Yeah, like whenever the person presses on that button, it is moving from there to here. And this is a view. Even though I have added all these things, I didn't made any events. If you press that thing, nothing will happen. We are only focusing on this. I created only for this thing, because I said you this is a vulnerable application. Inside this thing, I want to exploit the web view vulnerability, so I gave only one search box. So here also we can see layouts. This is called the whole layout. This is a parent layout, and yeah, this is a view. No need to worry about the view. In the static analysis we will see, but just to understand the code analysis, I'm showing you this thing. So here we can see inside this what we have gave. We have gave this view, the layout we have gave. This is also using full screen, and we have gave one image view searching. Yeah, here you can see nothing will work. Only this box will work, because here we declared in the Java code we can see only we have gave the image view. So this is like if you press on this thing and if you press the search, then what it has to do, that thing is declared here. So here also for the image view also we have created one listener. Inside this listener you can see we have intent, like whenever whatever he enters, and if he presses that button, it has to move from main activity 2 dot this to main activity 3 dot this another class, which means now it will be navigating from main activity 2 to main activity 3. Yeah, now you can let's get the XML file also. In the XML file nothing is yeah, you can see we have used one web view. That's all. Web view we have used normally web views are used to embed the browsers. For example, if my application requires a browser or any browsing activity, then we will be using the web view in order to like it is like a similar to iframes which we'll be using. So we are embedding the browser inside this application using the web view. So web views are used to embed the browsers, the browsing applications inside this thing. So that's why we are using. So that's why I didn't give any view, because the browser will be getting inside this thing, right? So that's the reason. And in the Java class you can see we have declared the web view. Web view we have declared, and the by default URL also we have gave google.com. Okay, so this is the thing. I think that's all with the application. Now you understood a little bit, right? So like if you analyze the source code, we can understand based on the manifest file. From the manifest file we observed like the first activity which is loading is splash screen. From the splash screen we have analyzed the splash screen code. So if you get into the splash screen code, we observe like from the splash screen it will be navigating from this page to this page, second page. And from here from the main activity also we have analyzed. From here also you are navigating to second again, like how the application is moving, the behavior you can understand, right? So and also we have observed this thing also, resource folder also. So here we are using some kind of fonts for the stylish, that's all. So let me show you. Yes, here you can see this is a different font, this is a different font. So we are declaring some kind of stylish fonts, so that's why we are using here font folder. And yeah, we have come up with this thing. And resources folder also we have covered almost. And map folder, here the application launcher will be there. Now we are not using any launcher. Like if you have any application launcher, you can see we can paste it here, but by default it is this thing. This is our application launcher, so we no need to worry regarding that thing. After the launcher, yeah, we have to get into values folder. So inside the values, as we said, it has all the profile styles which are used by the application. So in the style section, this is the, here we can see the primary color, the secondary, the primary dark color action. Like this is a uh, like whenever you open the application, here you can see like all these background colors will be there, right? The primary color what it is there, so that colors will be declared here, and this thing can be used by this theme. Okay, if you see inside the manifest file, you can see the theme. Mm, yeah, here you can see. So this application is using this thing, like whenever an application is launched, it directly loads this theme. In the themes, you are declaring the primary color, what it should be the primary color. So these are the by default colors for this application, that's what it means. And another thing is strings. So these are the strings we are using inside an application. So in the static analysis, this is a major file you have to look for, because here we have declared app name Narahari, logo name. So wait, yeah, here we, like if you want to use this vulnerable application many times, so every time you have to declare inside the XML file, right? So instead of doing that, what we can do is, here if you declare once in, if you declare once in the string name, what you can do is from the next time you can use this thing logo name wherever you want. So it will so it will be reducing your time, as well as the code size will also be decreasing, because instead of every time typing all these big things. So, and here also you can see string description. Here using, we have written some big thing, or whenever if you want to use the same thing, then it will be difficult for you, right, to write all these things. So instead of that, what you can do is you can use this string name, so that it will be easy for you. So all the application strings will be stored here. And the next thing is colors. So what are the colors used by this application? So these are the different colors we are using inside the application, which is defined by the developer. And also, yeah, the main thing, yeah, we have completed all these things inside this application. Now we will be moving for the Gradle scripts. So how your application is built, what are the requirements, that thing it will be declared here. So inside this, we can see these two applications. So here, yeah, this is a Gradle file. Here you can see uh, this application is built on Android SDK. Android SDK 30 we are using. So the default configuration, minimum SDK version is 16, which means that Android 4.4 something it will work. If you have less than that 4.4 something like that, then this application will won't work in that application. Here instead of 16, if you give 21, then if you run this application on Android 4 and Android 5, this application will not run on that device, because it works only from Android 7 like that. So this thing is declared here, and version, whether they have done any modifications, any updates, that thing you can see here. And also the build types, yeah, here as we already mentioned the ProGuard, but here we are not using any ProGuard, and here also we have gave the ProGuard rules. We are didn't give, it is not mandatory. If you want, you can use, or else no need to use. And the other application is, yeah, dependencies. From here you can see, from the dependencies is a major thing in the case of penetration testing. I think, yeah, this application has little bit. I will show you one more application, in that you can see many dependencies. Yeah, this is on another application. So why I'm saying you this build file is also important now. Inside these dependencies, you can see, from here we can understand. Okay, this application is using Firebase authorization. Application is using Firebase database. Application is using Firebase storage, and also this is also using some of the, like if this application is connecting to cloud, or if this application is connecting to any server, if it is connecting to any database, so in order to integrate that inside this application, you will be using those dependencies inside this thing. So here, from this you can observe, like you got some information, right? You have done some enumeration point. So from this you can conclude that this application is using Firebase. So they are using Firebase authorization, Firebase database, Firebase storage, and different kind of things. And also here, from this you can also understand, like this application is using AES encryption. Okay, uh, so from here uh, we can also understand some kind of information. Based on that, like it will be easy. If you say this thing, we will be getting some idea, and it will be used for the further analysis of the application. So yeah, this is the minimum thing regarding code analysis. And also yeah, wait, I will show you one more application. Okay, validation, I think we can do that in the static analysis, but okay, let's see that now only. Okay, see, in the demo I have showed you some small applications, but the real-time applications will look like this, and it will be very big. And from this also we can find some more information. So in the normal application we didn't find anything. So in the like it will be useful for us if doing code analysis on this kind of applications, because we can break the application. So in some cases, wait, I will show you. Yeah, this is the application. From here you can see, here it is taking input, enter full name, enter username, enter email. So here we can see like whether the input validation is happening or not. So for that reason I have showed you this thing, because inside the code analysis this thing also one of the important part. Okay, let's see. Yeah, here we are using 1 2 3 4 5 fields you are using, and you will be pressing the create an account. So from this, first we have to get inside this thing. See, from here also we can see. So wait, let me show you the diagram again, it will be easy. So here we have create new account, already have an account, which means two buttons we have. Whenever you press create new account, what it is happening? Whenever you press already have an account, what it is happening? That thing here we have declared already have an account, which means if you press this thing, what it will happening? You can see new on click listener, and we are calling this thing send user to login activity. So this thing, let me show you the thing what it is happening. Send user to login activity. Okay, so here what it is happening, he is navigating from register activity this to login activity dot next, which means the navigation is happening using the intents. So no need to write in a separate function, but here why we are writing in a separate Java method now. If you want to use multiple times, so instead of writing all this code, if you use this thing, in the above we have used, right? Yeah, if you simply call this method, so it will be easy. If you like, if you want to use multiple times, like as we declared in the string section, so we are creating a separate method because it will be easy for us, if you want to use multiple times. Also along with that, here there is also one more button. Yeah, only two buttons are available for this screen, and the second one is already have an account. Here also the same thing it is happening. Whenever you press create an account, so here you will be going to create new account method. So inside the create new account method, wait, let me get into, yeah, create new account. So here the method is there. Okay, so from here you can see here create new account. If you press create new account means 1 2 3 4 5 fields are there. From the code you can understand. First what it is taking, what it is doing is, whatever you enter inside the full name, it is taking and pasting in a name variable. So the same thing, username also, it is taking whatever the input available, and it is placing on the username variable, email variable, phone variable, password variable. See, that's all it is happening, right? Here there are 5 fields. The 5 fields are taking inside this different variables, and then you can see here they are doing input validation. So if you don't do input validation, then you will be having major security issues, which means your application is more liable to perform input validation attacks, input attacks, different kind of things like XSS. You can do SQL injection, and you can perform different kind of input based attacks. So here we can see here, if the person doesn't enter name, so it will prompt this thing error, please enter name. Like here he is declaring some kind of input validation, and if the username is empty, it means if he doesn't enter anything, it will display please enter username. Here he have giving this thing also, length also. If username length is greater than 20, then username is too long. If email is these all are the different kind of input validation techniques. And also here he is using this thing, email address matcher, because if you give here for example narahari.k, if you give like that means it here it matches whether if there is any, like whether the pattern is the original email ID or not. Like at the rate gmail.com, if you give means it will not show any error. If you give only Narahari K means it will show an error. This kind of thing. And also here he is declaring phone number also. From the source code we can analyze, like if these things are not available in the real time application, what we can do is we can perform input like input based attack, because here from the source code itself we can analyze there is no input validation happening, so it will be easy for us to do the attacks. So that's why I'm showing you this thing. If you see this kind of things on the real time applications, then the validation is happening, so it is somewhat secure. So if this kind of things it's not there, then it will be easy for the attacker or the penetration tester to perform to find the vulnerability. So here also you have declared this thing, if the password length is less than 6, so you can give not only this thing, we can give also along with this thing we can give the special characters also, capital small combination of this thing. All this validation should be happen here itself. So as of now we are not doing anything. Yeah, after that yeah, it is creating. Now from here we can understand if all the fields are successful, then you'll be getting this thing registering account, it will be prompt you right in the thing. And here the like it is creating with username, email and password, and the inside this thing you can see if it is successful, then yeah, if it is successful, then name, username, email, phone number, password is pushed into the server. Wait, let me show you this thing also, Firebase server also, it will be important for us. Not this thing, this is this project. Yeah, now we can see the source code, what it is pushing. Yeah, user is equal to new user, name, username, email, phone number, password. You can see all these things are saved in, see, email, name, password, phone number, username. So these things are saved here. So here everything is going correctly only, whatever the users entering, it is saving in the server. But here you can observe the difference. Here what is happening is they are not using any encryption techniques, they are not using any SSL, because here you can see the data is copied in a plain format, right? So here there may be vulnerability, like if like this application is going directly on pure HTTP traffic, it is not using. So the alternative to secure is you can use any encryption kind of thing, or else you can use SSL, something like that. But here from this application you can understand like no encryption is happening and nothing is happening. This even though this person has done even though this application has this kind of input validations, but the flaw is this application is going on a plain format. So an intruder and whoever he can see, he can capture and see the application data, as well as the administrator of this thing, the administration of the Firebase. He can also observe all the things, like who are the users, what's their like if like everything is in plain format, right? Not only this thing, not only users, like the messages, see, everything will be in plain format. So it is like it is less secure, because the developer, the person who is maintaining this thing, he may also misuse, or like they like here the integrity cannot be maintained due to there is no encryption, due to no SSL, everything. So here everything is in plain format. So this is one kind of law I want to show you in the code analysis, because from this application we can see everything is fine. They are using validations is fine, everything is fine, but here the problem exists is this thing, what the application is transmitting in a plain format. And I have like if you see this thing, I will show you another application also. Yeah, inside my cloud server I have another thing also, secure chat. This application I have built, this is actually the end-to-end encryption we have used, like in the real time how it will be using low. So for this application we have built like this. For the messaging we have used AES encryption, in like you can use SSL also, but we plan like we will be using our own encryption mechanism. So we have used AES for the attachments, like if in the application you will be attaching uh, images, all these things you'll be attaching, right? So further thing we have used FB console, it is used by the Facebook and the WhatsApp, right? Here this is one more application. Yeah, you can see here these two people are chatting here. Even though they are sending hi, how are you, I am fine. So here we are doing all the attachments. So in the real time how it will happen is, wait, you can see here, it is fully encrypted from. So even if the administrator also will not be knowing like who is submitting. This is called end-to-end encryption, because uh, even if you capture the data also, you can't see who is the sender, who is the receiver, what kind of message they are transmitting, what they are transmitting actually. So from here you can see, right, on the November 29, this thing was some older message. You can see who is sending also, you can't understand what is the message, it's encrypted. uh, what is the message ID, this is also encrypted. Time to see, you can see this is called the perfectly secured application, because it is using end-to-end encryption. And contacts also, you can see, you can't understand like who like which person having whose contact, because here we are not using any names. See, we are using their user ID, so it will be, it is some more secure. In the notification also, whatever you see here, you can't see any plain text kind of thing, because it's directly encrypted. See here, users also, you can't see the names and what are their contacts, what they are transmitting, this kind of things. And the same thing I will show you in the another application. In this case, yeah, you can see here everything is plain format. Gallery, inside the gallery also everything was in plain format. Messages also directly you can read, and users also, everything is transmitting in a plain format, and the data is also storing in a plain format. So this will be, this is not like not that much secure. So you can see inside the secure chat also we have saw this thing, it was secure, like it is saving in a encrypted format. But here also there is one kind of chance, we'll be seeing that in a static analysis, but for now I will be showing you. Yeah, here you can see, mm, even though this application is very secure in the case of end-to-end data message transmitting everything, but in some of the applications, this kind of things you can observe. Like here you can see, for the AES encryption, they have directly hard coded the password, which means that whoever has this password, like whoever the attacker or the penetration tester, if we gather this password, so it will be easy for us to decrypt, and we can, whatever it is transmitting, everything will be in plain format, right? So even though this is using fully AES, FB console, different kind of encryption mechanisms, and using the end-to-end encryption, but here there may be some small flaw, uh, because the password is directly hard coded inside this thing. This kind of application, this kind of things we'll be seeing on the static analysis. But as of now, I'm saying you. So instead of this thing, usually I use this thing only. For the password, we have used randomized. Uh, like it will only generating the randomized thing I used. But to show you the code analysis, what it is, instead of using this thing, I'm showing you, like there are some cases in which the password, some of the important data will be hard coded directly inside the source code. So this is also one of the things you have to look. Yeah, yeah, that's all. And also, yeah, I have said to you, like I have made one application, this only the same application. In this I have used, in some, you can see the reverse TCP connection to the attacker. That thing we will look now. Yeah, okay. So this is the attacker machine. What I did is, inside our application, wait, let's run, yeah, now we are using listener in the attacker machine. So whenever this application is launched, see, now whenever this application is launched, you can see nothing is happening. It just opening the splash screen, and it is loading the main activity. But in the background, in this application I have embedded the reverse TCP connection, the malicious thing. See, now you can't observe any difference, nothing you can see. Here you can see directly open the application, you didn't found anything. But in the back end, what it is happening is, see, this application is connected to the attacker machine. We what In this application, what we have done is, we have built one malicious TCP reverse connection to the attacker. Now you can see, uh, see, you can see everything, whatever available on the device, everything is captured from here. You can see everything. So if you want to see, uh, uh, whatever you want to say, you can see, you can get into downloads, or See, we have downloaded these things. So from the device you can see this this user will not know like whether his application device has been hacked, but in the backend you can see this application has been attacked. So from here also he can do different kind of attacks. I'm showing you like this uh, reverse TCP flaw. Like we have using the Diva application, but inside the Diva application we don't have this thing, because we all know this reverse TCP malware is very critical and it is very important. So that's why I added this thing inside this thing. And this thing also you can see from the source code. From the source code I will be showing you. So I have embedded inside this thing under the main activity. Here we can see till now we saw only this thing. Whenever a button is pressed, it has to navigate from here to here. But here in the after that you can see we are starting one more thread. Okay, so we are using this method. Like for the reverse shell I have created one method. So here from this you can see, okay, whenever this thing is happening, along with that this thing also it will start. So here it is starting. See, yeah, here you can see, like if you do the source code analysis we can find this kind of things. Here this is the vulnerable string from here, because it is like here we are executing these commands. We are directly getting the shell. That's what it is happening right inside this thing. We are getting the shell directly due to this source code. And also along with that here we can see the attacker IP address, attacker port, because we have to manually give the IP address, right? Because the application will be installed remotely. So in order to connect to the attacker, we have to give the attacker's IP address along with the attacker's port. So here you can see this is a malicious code we have used here. That's all. But if you see the main activity, layout, you can't see anything, because here we didn't mention anything. Like whenever an application is long, this thing will be open. So the users, they will be thinking like, okay, this thing is nothing malicious thing happening. But in the backend, if you analyze the source code, you can see we are making one kind of malicious things. And also the another vulnerability is the another vulnerability inside this application I have used this WebView vulnerability. Okay, get started. Okay, let's search Google. If you search means, yeah, from here we have declared, right? So whenever you press this thing, from here it will go to the screen 3. From the screen 2 it is navigating to screen 3. So inside the screen 3 you are using WebView. So WebViews can be used, nothing wrong in that. But here the problem is, inside the WebView you are using this thing, set JavaScript enable true. So this is the major flaw inside the WebView. Because if you set the JavaScript enable to true means, like if the user is visiting if the user is visiting some website, some malicious website or some phishing website or some of the sites, so in that if the malicious JavaScript is running, then using that your applications will your this app will be hacked. Because uh, inside the JavaScript, whatever the attacker has been written, that thing will be executed inside this browser due to this flaw. You can see this is a WebView flaw. And you can see there are many kind of WebView flaws available. Because this flaw occurs because we are enabling the JavaScript, right? So whenever if we enter the malicious Java page, so it will be executed, and due to this thing your application will be in trouble. See here also, this is the flaw they mentioned, right? Websitting that this is one of the major flaw. Because see, if you have this WebView vulnerability means it can be exploitable, so it will be making the application trouble. So that's all with this video. And in the next video what we'll be doing is we'll be taking the Diva, as I said, the vulnerable application, using, yeah, here I have downloaded already. Using the Diva application we'll be doing the static analysis and dynamic analysis. So let me summarize once more. Till now we have done with the introduction to Android, and we learned how an application is built in the developer's point of view. And after that we saw the code analysis, how what are the things we have to look, and inside the Android application what are important, what are not. And we have also saw the vulnerable applications which has the reverse TCP connection as well as the WebView vulnerability. So in the next I'm making another video, because this video is becoming very lengthy. So to share and further thing, I'm making to do the second video. In that thing we'll be doing the static analysis as well as the dynamic analysis of the Diva application. Thank you.